Item number 5, acknowledgement, just a very brief acknowledgement from me following on from some of the other acknowledgements have been made in respect of the World Cup, Women's FIFA World Cup, that the New Zealand component of which just concluded on Tuesday with another magnificent match, and just really to acknowledge all the people who took part in that tournament, whether as volunteers or officials, and particularly I think to the people of Auckland who turned out in such huge numbers to support what was an incredibly successful event. So I think it's important at the first meeting after that tournament that we acknowledge that, and to give our city and to give our people a pat on the back, which was absolutely phenomenal.
If you still want to watch the games, they're on at the tape.
Okay, Councillor Baker.
Can I just add to that too, Mr. Chair, just how good is it to have a big event and not to hear a single complaint about trains, buses? How good was our public transport? How good was, you know, the people within council group, I suppose, who contributed to such a good event? And, you know, the silence was deafening in terms of the normal whinging about how bad things are when the bus is 2 minutes late. So I just want to congratulate everyone within the organisations who allowed that tournament to be so good. Okay, great. So we'll obviously get a chance to address that in terms of Auckland Transport's not insignificant contribution to the functioning of the tournament later on the piece. That brings us to item 5, which is public input. We have one request received and accepted, and as I invite the team to the table here, we have Fraser Foote from Wellington Electric Boat Building, and Fraser will introduce the other members of the project team. Fraser's company, which is based in Wellington, produces all electric ferries designed to suit each specific route, which I think might be of particular interest to a number of the councillors here who have ferry runs in their wards, and they are the Southern Hemisphere's producer of the first all-electric high-performance passenger ferry. So we have a company here in our country that is walking the talk, has an all-electric passenger ferry up and running in Wellington. So without any further ado, welcome Fraser, and the floor is yours.
Is that better? Can you hear me? Oh, look, that's marvellous, isn't it? Great. So I'm going to hopefully make this thing go. I'm just going to watch this for a minute. No, it's okay. We haven't got any sound. Technical issue.
There is no sound, it's electric.
It is actually. So, thank you. Yeah, that's Ikareri blasting across Wellington Harbour on one of our first runs at 22 knots. So, yeah, my name's Fraser Foote, originally from Whangarei, but now live in Wellington. And I'm the Managing Director of the Wellington Electric Boat Building Company. My background is passenger ferries. I've been fortunate to build about 25 of them. And you would all know Osprey, that's here in Auckland Harbour. Been here, I think I built her 28 years ago, still going strong. So I'll just introduce some of my team here. So it's a very important point. This boat was built by a team of people, certainly not by me. To my left here is Christian Simpson, who's SSC Marine, does all our naval architecture. We also have Gurrit, who supplied all our composite materials and did all the structural engineering. To my right here is Lindsay Faithful, CEO and owner of Mackay Electrical in Whangarei. Mackay had a huge part in this, supplied the batteries, power converters, the motors, did electrical engineering, which was pretty extensive, put the whole thing together, and then, of course, made it go. So we have a team, and we needed a client, of course, so I'd built a boat for East by West Ferries. I've got to click this thing again, don't I? Sorry. No, ooh, what do I do? Yep, there we are, sorry. I can build a boat, but I'm not really good with technology, obviously. So, yeah, we needed a client, so I built a boat for East by West some 20 years ago. And so we kind of sat around a room and went, okay, the technology's here, let's build a boat, we'll make it electric, can't be that hard. So that's the boat, the Kariri. So if you take nothing out of my little speech today, we all sitting here believe these are very run-specific vessels and projects. So if you go back to Osprey, built that, some cute Caterpillar engines, we like the ZF gearboxes, 1,200 litres a side, it'll go anywhere. These boats can't carry enough energy and batteries to go wherever you want to go. So they really need to be this boat's designed specifically for what East by West wanted. So they're a commuter and tourist operation. They wanted 3 back-to-back runs in the morning. They wanted 3 in the afternoon. They wanted a lunch cruise and a dinner cruise. And so that's what we designed the boat around. Huge focus on weight control for this project. As you can see in the little slide here, you know, weight is hull resistance, and my friend over here talks to me all about that all the time. And resistance is energy, and energy sure is money. So, I mean, it was so intense, this weight control, that one day I weighed the windscreen wipers, and I went down the road and bought pizza and beer because they were 15 kilograms underweight. We weighed every single part of the boat. We went in the water about 1,500 kilograms light, which, if you know anything about boat building, doesn't happen. We had a service speed expectation of 20 knots. We've seen 26 on the dial. Lindsay's team wouldn't give us all the power in our first run. They were all a bit, you know, it was a bit scary because it's got so much grunt. And with only 80% of the power, we got 22 knots, and the next day 24, and then we've done some tweaks and we're getting 25 to 26. So it's fast, it's silent, it's amazing. It's by far the most successful project I've ever done in my life. So, Gulf Harbour. So there's been some media about the fact that this isn't possible to be electric, and it absolutely is. The technology's here today, and it's only getting better. The batteries are getting better, the charging's getting better. We're learning a lot. The boat itself, we've learnt so much just operating it for the last 18 months. So, Gulf Harbour, we would use this boat here, 24 metres, foil assisted, 23 knots, 200 passengers. We've had a good look at the run. It's not that far, it's only 15 and a half nautical miles. Ikariri does 11 nautical miles. So right now Ikariri would do that run. I've got to find my next page, sorry. The other thing we're really interested to talk to AT about is some bike boats. Lots of discussion about tunnels and more harbour crossings. And this is an interim solution, like right now. So 3 boats, we've got a proposal we're going to present in the next few days. The run's real short. The boats have to do 12 knots because of the restrictions underneath the bridge. So very good solution, pretty easy. They allowed me 5 minutes, but so I think that's it. We can do it. So yeah, we'd like some engagement. Thank you. Questions?
Okay, so thanks very much, Fraser. We'll open the room up to questions, and we kind of have 2 components here. We have the last bit there to do with our second proposal or opportunity with bike ferries, and then we have the ability to produce electric ferries for route-specific services, which is certainly pretty exciting from my perspective as being one of the council that has 3 separate ferry services in our ward. But other members opening up for questions. Councillor Turner.
Thank you. What's the passenger capacity?
So Ikariri is done specifically for East by West needs. It's 132 passengers, and we would build a 200 passenger boat for the Gulf Harbour run.
You made the comment that the Kariri would do the Gulf Harbour run, but then you said the Kariri was built around 3 trips in the morning, 3 trips in the evening, and 2 in the middle of the day. It wouldn't do that there, would it? Because the distance would take away some of the trips.
So it would be charging at each end. But yeah, absolutely. Ikariri will do 80 nautical miles at 8 knots and 25 nautical miles at 20 knots.
And you just said with charging at each end.
Yeah.
So you would be fast charging at each end, and
Yep.
and that takes a much greater capacity of supply and charger facility, correct?
Yeah, there's, it's an interesting question. So when you build a boat, there's 4 things that you've got to think about. The cost of the boat, the scope of work, the quality that you're going to do, and the time frame you build it in. When you build an electric boat, there's 2 other very, very important parts of that solution, and that is the run rate and the charger. And I often say to people, if you're going to build a boat, man, you talk about the charger first. It took us 3 years to put a charger in on Wellington foreshore. So charging infrastructure is of vital importance. With more charging, you can have less batteries and less cost. It's a very integrated system. Everything affects everything.
Councillor Simpson.
Yeah, that was one of my questions. My other question was, what's your bike capacity, and have you spoken to central government?
Yeah, we've spoken to central government. They're interesting, aren't they? Capacity is 60 bikes and 100 people. Yeah, and with the 3 boats. So the 3 boats would start off in the morning for commuters, and then during the middle of the day they would come offline and turn and be charged, and then they'd be charged for the end of the day, and then they would come offline, later on at night. That's our solution.
Councillor Fletcher.
Oh, I'm very excited by your presentation, and I'm really interested in, getting my head around the route-specific dimension to this. I feel that, given the isthmus that we are, that there has to be a greater future for using the harbour for connectivity and public transport for the future. What I'm interested in, though, is to what degree, you're talking about being innovators. Are you collaborating with other people within the sector? How is that work that you're being undertaking at the moment? Issues around intellectual property, issues around charging, issues around making sure that the infrastructure that is there, that is standardised for other operators. Can you just give me a little bit of insight into what is occurring within your industry amongst yourself and your competitors, and the lobbying that you are doing to central government to try and get the regulatory framework in a way that's going to be workable for the future?
I mean, firstly, we know the people that are building boats at the moment, and some of them are friends of ours, and they're good people. As far as the rest of it, I'm going to hand over to Lindsay because he's got a better handle on some of this.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Lindsay Faithful tōku ingoa, Managing Director of Mackay, the electrical systems partner for Webco. Councillor Fletcher, to answer your question, so AT are putting a very extensive charging infrastructure project throughout Auckland at the moment, and that's very substantial, and it'll use an international standard charging protocol, which means anyone's ferry can plug into it, including ours and including the ones that are on order for you guys right now.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of the boat building history that we've had in the city of Sails, that, as we like to think of ourselves. are we to the forefront internationally on this, and how are we going to capture the research and development that is taking place so that we can keep that competitive edge?
Absolutely. I had a phone call 6 months ago from Saudi Arabia, and they said, you realise you're the only ones in the world that have built an ocean-going electric passenger ferry that works. I went, okay, yeah. So, you know, we are innovators, and this was a challenging project, of the most challenging of my 40-something years. And there was times where we had seemingly, you know, problems or, you know, design issues that we were tackling. COVID was actually my friend, because we stopped the project and we were able to get through a lot of stuff and come out of it the other end. So yeah, it's worthwhile, Christian, just talking about our interaction with the Auckland marine industry. Yeah, do you want to talk a bit about that interaction with the Auckland industry?
Yes, I can speak to that. I'm a naval architect and a specialist in that field. I've got 35 years or more doing it. I'm a former America's Cup team member and specialising in the sort of hull design. As a result, I end up interacting with other specialists, structural engineers, interior, exterior, regulatory compliance, as well as the electrical and the boat building side of things. It's a very challenging project, a very challenging arena. The game is moving very fast. You've got to keep abreast of both technology of the moment and technology that is upcoming, and be aware of what the possibilities might be in the very near or mid-term. And as a result, you end up working with people who are, and in Auckland, in Whangarei, around the country, not just Auckland specific, but who are experts in their particular field and integrating their expertise and knowledge and foresight rather than working in an ivory tower in isolation saying, I know it all. You can't possibly conduct a project like this on that basis.
Councillor Walker, online.
Sure, thank you very much, John. I've just got a question that the guests may be able to answer, but may not. Quite clearly, from the presentation, we have a situation where this is game-changing now. But having said that, with the enhancement in charging technology and battery technology, and arguably even more improvements in boat building, this will be even more viable in the future. Now, this is quite critical information, because it strikes me that we will have an alternative that will beat hopping on, say, a bus, hands down, because that is going to be constrained by more traffic and other issues. How can we tap into this information so that we've got contestable advice around something that's so important? That's my question.
Engage with us, we'd love to help. And one of the things outside the boat building that we would love to help with is the East Bow West team have been pivotal with this whole project, and they've learnt so much. The boat's going so much further and so much faster than we ever thought possible. And part of this is the East Bow West team have got all this data that they've collected. It's unbelievable. We're struggling to even grasp what they're doing at the moment. They've got big spreadsheets and they're putting them all together to know exactly how to sail this boat and get the very, very best out of it. So, and some of that information would save Auckland Transport and then a lot of money in what even the boats they're using now. East Bow West have transferred that technology over to the diesel boats they've got and are saving tens of thousands of dollars a month in diesel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just through you, as much and all as this information is useful to us, the people of Auckland need to know about this, because that can alter their perspective and their comment on these sorts of options.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Walker.
Just one thing to add. So just about battery technology, the improvement in energy density, which means you can go further with the same weight, it's not quite exponential, but it's very steep. So if we can do this now, and we firmly believe we can, then in 2, 3, 4 years, it'll be even better. I guess that's just the other point to make. The improvement in battery technology is happening so rapidly that it'll just get better and better from a position where we can do it now. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Darby.
Thanks, gents. You'll be aware that we have a fleet of electric ferries underway. Can you just outline your part? Did you bid in the procurement process for those? Were you aware of the process?
We were absolutely aware of what was going on, and we weren't allowed to bid. That was my understanding. So yeah, we weren't allowed to be involved.
Did Auckland Transport representatives, did they visit you? I thought they visited your company and inspected your vessels.
So lots of AT staff have been to see the boat and ridden on it, lots and lots of them. They've all, a lot of them come to the Marine Transport Conference that happens every year, and it's been in Wellington a couple of times, and so yeah, there's a lot of AT staff have been on the boat. And we have some communication with them, and it's good, it's positive communication.
Okay, and just in terms of that Gulf Harbour back to the city, it's a pretty gnarly environment. I used to sail a lot around the Gulf, and I know how big the fetch can be there, and the swells are enormous. I think we factor in extreme swells of 3.5 metres there, and you'll know that there are cancellations due to the conditions, and it's usually on the beam, uncomfortable. I've been to Tiri Martingi not so long ago, and in the summer, and experienced that. I should have taken a bucket. So just in terms of your hull design, can you just explain how it can endure those conditions to make a reliable service?
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, first I'll refer to Fraser's experience of the Wellington ferry in windy Wellington. They've been out in over 2.5 metre seas and 50 knots of breeze and maintained a service in that. So the vessel as a concept is definitely proven in that sea state. Fundamentally, our design is a very narrow waterline hull. It's not a wide planing hull, it's a narrow cleaving hull which slices through the water rather than planes above it. And because of that, it responds less to wave encounters. And certainly for the Gulf Harbour route, we would have a foil-assisted ferry, which the foil would serve to damp some of the pitch motion out as well. So as a design principle, it's a more sea-kindly vessel than the current vessels on service right now. But certainly in the course of the design process, we would be looking to model seakeeping and sea states and ensure it was suitable for the route. Now, that said, there is always going to be a limiting sea state. Every vessel has a limiting sea state. It's about where that limiting sea state meets the most frequently encountered weather pattern. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Councillor Darby. Just final question from me. We're fortunate we've got a little bit more time for public input today because you're the only presenters and you come up from Wellington. And it just really follows on from Councillor Darby's question. Obviously, it sounds as if we have a more resilient craft that would reduce cancellation rates. But he referred to our program that's rolling out with electric ferries. I guess for the public and even ourselves, there's probably the notion that all electric ferries are created equal, and it's a bit like perhaps buying a car. I suspect that's not the case. Would you like to elaborate on terms of our choices going forward and perhaps what we should be considering, given you're the only location in the Southern Hemisphere that has direct on-the-water experience?
No. Very difficult question. The people that are building these boats are friends of ours, and they're doing what they're doing. I think our big strength is we're a team of dedicated people that have done something amazing, and it's better than we expected. So I don't know anything about those boats other than they're being built. I don't know the details, their run rate, how much batteries they've got. So, without all that information, I don't believe we'd be wise to say anything. I'm sure those boats will be of some use to Auckland. Pardon?
All right,
I don't want
okay.
to say much more.
There's Christian's statement about how we took a different design.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think to summarise, we've made different design choices for a different application. I would say that our design philosophy, our design style, where we've positioned the boat in terms of the parameters of the hull shape, is targeting a different set of criteria and therefore a different outcome.
So thank you very much for your presentation, gentlemen. There's a recommendation up on the screen to receive the public input and also to request that Auckland Transport engage with Webco regarding electric ferries in Auckland. It would seem to me there's possibilities of sharing information and perhaps information provided that might be of use to us as we roll out our fleet over the next few years. So Councillor Fletcher has moved that and seconded by Councillor Simpson. All those in favour? Right. Carried. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming up, Fraser from Welling, today to give that excellent presentation. Really appreciate it. And moving on, did I jump the gun a bit there? Do we have to do this on this?
No,
okay. Yeah, so we've got item 6. There's no local board input. Item number 7, extraordinary business. There is just one item there. Understanding Order 2.4.6. I'm just looking for agreement of the meeting to receive a verbal update relating to the general business of the committee on later on item 13 to do with the Waitemata Harbour connections. As you'll know, there was an announcement recently, so we're just really looking for Megan Tyler to give us a bit of an update. It'll be a verbal one. I think that shouldn't cause too much dismay in the meeting, so I'll move that. Doesn't have to be moved. Okay, so that's just an information one there.